Greetings. Tonight's story puts us in the shoes of Thorne, the solitary commander of the Last Hope. As we drift past the edge of our solar system, we face the crushing silence of the void, the heavy toll of leaving Earth behind, and a discovery that challenges humanity's place in the stars. Prepare yourself. We are leaving the cradle. If you really enjoy what we are doing here, please give us a like and let us know where you are tuning in from. Chapter 1. The Heliopause Crossing. You are on Last Hope. You are sending a final soul transmission. You check the gain on the transmission, though you suppose it hardly matters now. By the time this signal crawls back to them, 17 hours, give or take, at light speed, there won't be much control left for them to exercise. You are officially off the leash. The telemetry they are receiving is already a ghost of what you are currently experiencing. You are speaking to them from their future, and they are listening to a ghost who, by the time they hear this, will likely already be in the initial stages of cryoprep. You are looking at the rear monitors right now. It is a strange thing to witness. You grow up seeing the sun as a tyrant in the sky. It dictates everything. It decides when you wake, when you sleep, how hot it is, how the crops grow, whether you need a coat or shade. It is the absolute, unquestionable dictator of biological life. It is God, for all intents and purposes. From out here, though, it is just a star. It is the brightest one in the sky, certainly, but it is losing its grip. You can feel it. You do not mean gravity, obviously. The nav computer handles the math on the gravitational wells and the Lagrange points. You mean you can feel the psychological tether snapping. It feels like a physical unmooring, like a boat drifting out of the harbor when the rope is cut. There is a vertigo to it, a sudden, sickening realization that down no longer exists. Your vitals are steady, or so the screen tells you. Heart rate is a little elevated, but anyone trying to sit on top of a fusion drive spinning at 90% output would struggle to be zen. The vibration is constant. It hums in your teeth. It vibrates in the marrow of your bones, a low-frequency reminder that you are riding a controlled explosion. You drink the recycled water, and it tastes like copper. It always tastes like copper, no matter how many times the filtration systems scrub it. Or maybe that is just the taste of fear. Maybe it is the taste of adrenaline that hasn't had anywhere to go for 6 months. It sits at the back of your throat, a metallic tang that reminds you of blood. You have been thinking a lot about that press conference. You remember the one about 3 weeks before the launch window opened, that reporter from the Times, the one with the glasses that kept slipping down his nose. He asked you what you expected to find. You gave him the standard line. You told him you were looking for knowledge, for resources, for a future for humanity. You said all the things that look good on a mission patch. But sitting here now, at the edge of the system, you can admit that was mostly junk. You do not come out here for resources. There are plenty of asteroids, plenty of moons, plenty of rocks, floating between Mars and Jupiter, if all we wanted was nickel and iron. You do not need to cross the dark for that. You come out here because of the itch. You know the itch. It is that feeling you get when you look at a locked door. It is the feeling your ancestors got when they stood on the edge of the savannah, looked at the ocean, and didn't see a barrier, but a highway. They didn't build rafts because they needed fish. They built rafts because they couldn't stand, not knowing what the silence on the other side sounded like. You remember standing on the beach as a child, the grey Atlantic rolling in, feeling that pull in your chest, a hunger not for food, but for distance. You are not doing this for humanity. You are not doing this for the history books or the statues they might build in the plaza. You are doing this because the unknown was eating a hole in you, and this was the only way to fill it. The shields are fluctuating now. You can see the readouts spiking in the amber range. You are hitting the bow shock. The heliopause isn't just a line on a map. It is a physical wall of plasma and magnetic turbulence. The solar wind, That stream of particles that has been buffeting your back for months is finally crashing into the interstellar medium. It is like walking out of a warm house into a blizzard without a coat. The hull is groaning. You wish they could hear it. It sounds like the ship is breathing, settling its weight. It is a mournful sound, the sound of metal complaining against the absolute cold. She knows. Last Hope knows you are leaving the cradle. It is beautiful, though. The darkness out here is not empty. In low orbit, space looks like a void. But here, with the sun reduced to a piercing point of light, the darkness feels thick. It is heavy with potential. You look at the star charts, at Proxima, at Sirius, at Wolf 359, and they do not look like points of light anymore. They look like destinations. They look like neighbors leaving the porch light on, waiting for someone to walk up the driveway. But the driveway is long, and the night is very, very cold. You have been trying to catalogue what you will miss. It is a shorter list than you expected, which perhaps says something terrible about you. You will miss the sound of rain on a tin roof. That specific frequency of white noise that lets you sleep deeper than anything else. You will miss the smell of ozone right before a summer storm breaks. You will miss the weight of gravity, real gravity, not this centrifugal spin that fools the inner ear but never quite tricks the stomach. You will miss the chaotic imperfection of a forest. Everything on this ship is designed. Every bolt, every panel, every breath of air is calculated, engineered, and purposeful. There is no chaos here. A forest is chaos that somehow works. You think you will miss that chaotic harmony most of all. You miss the messiness of life. You are going to cut the live feed soon. You want to save the power for the stasis pods. The reactor efficiency is within predicted limits, but out here, redundancy is the only religion that matters. By the time you wake up, everyone listening to this will be gone. That is the hardest math to do. It is harder than the orbital mechanics. It is the temporal calculus. Their children's children will be old. The political borders on the map will have shifted. The wars they are fighting now will be footnotes. You are effectively killing everyone you know by pressing the sleep button. It is a quiet, passive form of murder, leaving them all behind to age and die while you skip to the end. That is the price of the ticket, isn't it? You trade your present for the future. You trade your life with them for a chance to see what is next. It is a selfish trade. You know that. You left people behind who deserved better. You hope they understand eventually. You hope they look up and realize that you didn't leave them. You just had to go there. The radiation sensors are screaming now. The particle density is spiking. This is it. The transition. The magnetic field lines of the sun are folding back on themselves, and you are punching through. The turbulence is severe. The ship is shaking, not like an airplane in bad air, but like a submarine diving too deep. It is a structural complaint, but she will hold. The engineers at Propulsion did good work. Last Hope was built for this pressure. Don't forget us. That is your only request. Not just you, but the whole idea of this. The ones who threw themselves into the void, you are just the seeds thrown into the wind. Most of you will probably land on rocks. Most of you will freeze or burn or simply drift forever in the silence. But you only need one seed to land on fertile ground to make the whole thing worth it. Take care of the earth. It looks so fragile from here. When you see it from the moon, it looks like a marble. From here, it is a dust mote, a pale blue speck suspended in a sunbeam. It is terrifyingly small. It is all we have. Don't break it before we find you a spare. Do not burn the house down while the family is still inside. You are initiating the spin-down sequence for the comms array. The dish needs to retract before you hit the higher density debris fields in the Oort Cloud. This is the last voice of a human being they will hear from this vector for a very long time. You are looking at the stasis pod. It looks like a coffin made of glass and chrome, but it promises a dreamless sleep. No aging, no pain. Just a pause button pressed on existence until the sensors detect a habitable zone. You wonder if you will dream. They say you don't, but they also said the sound barrier couldn't be broken. If you do dream, you hope it is of the ocean. You hope it is of the noise that drowns out the silence. Crossing the line in 3, 2, 1. The turbulence is easing. The hum is changing pitch. You are through. You are in the open water now. Goodbye, soul. You were a warm mother, but it is time to leave the nest. Hello, everything else. Thorne, out. Chapter 2. The Cold Wake. There is no ocean in your dream. There is only a high-pitched, rhythmic screeching, like a metal grinder on bone. It is the sound of something breaking that shouldn't break. It claws at your subconscious, dragging you up from the heavy, black sludge of cryo-sleep. You wake gasping. Your first breath is not air, but a thick, gelatinous fluid that burns your throat. You have your body convulsing against the restraints, choking on the very substance meant to keep you alive. The panic is instantaneous and feral. You are drowning. You are trapped in a glass box, drowning in blue slime. The lid of the pod is already open. You scramble out, slick and naked, crashing onto the deck plating. The metal is freezing cold enough to burn your skin instantly. You retch the last of the suspension fluid, shivering so violently your teeth clack together like stones. The sound of your own retching is deafening in the silence. Something is wrong. The feeling sits in your stomach, heavier than the fluid you just expelled. The lighting is wrong. The soothing blue standby lights of the cryo deck are gone, replaced by a strobing, crimson emergency pulse. It bathes the room in blood, then darkness, then blood again. Pulse, dark, pulse, dark. It is a heartbeat of catastrophe. It disorients you, messing with your depth perception, making the shadows seem to leap and retreat. You try to stand, but your legs are jelly. Atrophy hasn't set in, the electrostimulators prevented that, but the cryo sickness is dizzying. Your inner ear is spinning. You feel like the floor is tilted at a 40-degree angle. You crawl toward the nearest console, your wet hands slapping against the cold metal. You need heat. You need to stop the shivering before hypothermia takes you in your own ship. You feel pathetic, a naked, shivering animal in a high-tech tomb. Computer, like you've been screaming for years. It is a stranger's voice, raspy and thin. Status report. Silence. No synthetic voice. No comforting readout. Just the pulse. Dark. Pulse. And the distant, rhythmic screeching of the ship's hull. The silence is heavy. It isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of emptiness. The hum of the fusion drive, that constant vibration that rattled your teeth in Chapter 1, is gone. The heart of the ship has stopped beating. You pull yourself up to the console, your wet fingers slipping on the interface. You wipe the biogel from your eyes, blinking away the sting, and focus on the chronometer. The numbers are flickering, but they stabilize long enough for you to read them. Mission time T+4 years, 9 months and 5 days. Distance from Sol, 142 astronomical units. You stare at the numbers. You blink, sure that the sickness is hallucinating them for you. 4 years. You have been asleep for 4 years? That isn't right. That can't be right. The transit to Proxima was supposed to take 70. You should be old. The Earth should be different. You should be waking up to the light of a new sun. You should be a legend by now, but you are still in the dark. 142 AU is barely past the Oort Cloud. You are essentially still in the driveway. You haven't even left the neighborhood. The crushing weight of failure hits you before the fear does. You didn't make it. Why am I awake? You whisper. You punch the diagnostic key. The screen flashes red. Critical failure, external proximity, a collision, a comet. At 15% light speed, a pebble would have vaporized the ship. If you hit something, you should be dead dust, expanding into the vacuum. You shouldn't be feeling the cold deck plating. You shouldn't be breathing. You find an emergency blanket in the locker under the console and wrap it around your shaking shoulders. The silver foil crinkles loudly in the dead silence of the room. A ridiculous, festive sound in the middle of a funeral. You need to get to the bridge. You need to see. The walk to the bridge is a nightmare. The gravity is off. The centrifugal spin feels jerky, uneven, as if last hope is wobbling on its axis. The corridor is freezing. Breath plumes in front of your face in the red strobe light. The air smells stale, recycled too many times. But under that, there is another smell. Something sharp. Ozone? No. It smells like wet iron. It smells like the taste of the copper water, magnified 1,000 times. You reach the blast doors of the bridge. They are sealed. You key in your command code. The hydraulics whine, protesting, sounding like a dying animal. But the doors slide open. The bridge is freezing. The main viewport, a 10-meter span of diamond glass, dominates the room. The blast shields are retracted. You look out. You expect stars. You expect the infinite, uncaring tapestry of the void. You expect to see the distant, shrinking dot of the sun, but you don't see stars. You see a shadow. Directly ahead of the ship, blotting out the starfield, is a shape. It is massive, impossibly massive. It is not a planet. It is jagged, irregular, and utterly pitch black, darker than the space around it. It absorbs the light. The only reason you can see it is because it is silhouetted against the background radiation. A hole in the universe. It feels malevolent in its sheer size. It looms over you, a mountain in the dark. And last hope isn't moving past it. The navigational readout on the captain's chair confirms the impossible. Velocity 2 meters per second. You have almost stopped in the middle of the void, without deceleration thrusters firing, without inertial dampeners liquefying your organs. You have simply ceased to move. Physics has been suspended. And then, on the console in front of you, a single green light blinks on. The communications array. It's receiving a signal, not from Earth, but from it. Chapter 3, The Archivist. You stumble toward the comm station, the emergency blanket trailing behind you like a royal cape of foil and despair. The light blinking on the console is rhythmic, hypnotic. Green, green, green. It is the only steady thing in a universe that has gone mad. You strap yourself into the chair, your hands shaking as you reach for the interface. You hesitate. Part of you, the part that evolved on the savannah to fear the rustle in the tall grass, screams at you not to answer. Whatever stopped a cruiser traveling at 15% of light speed without crushing it into a tin can is not something you want to have a conversation with. But the itch is there, even now, shivering in the cold, terrified out of your mind. The itch remains. You have to know, the silence of the ship is crushing you, heavier than the G-force ever was. You need a sound. You need a voice. You open the channel. You expect a voice. A guttural alien language, a mathematical sequence, maybe the screech of digital static. Instead, you hear music. It is faint, distorted by static and distance, but unmistakably human. It is a brass instrument, a trumpet, jazz. You recognize the tune. Its dark was the night, cold was the ground. Your blood runs cold. It freezes the breath in your lungs. You know this song. It was on the Golden Record. It was on Voyager. It was meant to be a greeting, a handshake sent across the stars. Hearing it now, bouncing back at you from the void, feels like a violation. It sounds like a ghost singing a lullaby in a graveyard. It twists your stomach. The hope that song represented, the naive, beautiful hope of 1977, curdles into dread. Computer, though you know the AI is offline. Triangulate source. You do it manually, your fingers numb and clumsy. The signal is coming from the shadow directly ahead. And now that your eyes are adjusting to the darkness, you see that the shadow is not just a rock. It is a structure. It is a lattice. A massive, chaotic web of metal and carbon spanning kilometers. It looks like a spiderweb made of shipwrecks. It hangs in the void, silent and impossible, and last hope is drifting toward it. The artificial gravity fails completely, then reorients. You are being pulled, not by a tractor beam, that's science fiction nonsense, but by directed gravity. The structure is manipulating the curvature of space around you. You are falling up toward it. You scramble to the viewport, pressing your forehead against the freezing diamond glass. The structure is getting closer. You can see details now. And what you see breaks your heart. Caught in the web, welded to the lattice like flies in amber, are shapes you recognize. There are asteroids, comets, blocks of ice. But among them are the machines. You see the blocky silhouette of a Pioneer probe, half crushed under a strut. You see debris that looks suspiciously like the upper stage of a Saturn V, preserved in the vacuum. And there, near the center, gleaming gold in the faint reflection of your own running lights, is the dish of Voyager 1. This isn't a wall. It's a net. Everything humanity has ever thrown into the dark, every bottle message, every prayer, every scientific instrument meant to say we are here, didn't leave the system. It was caught, harvested, collected. It makes you feel incredibly small. All those years of engineering, all those dreams of reaching out, and we were just throwing pebbles at a windshield we couldn't even see. And now, you are the latest addition to the collection. The hull screeches again, louder this time. Metal grinds against metal. A clamp. Last hope shudders and comes to a violent, absolute halt. You are docked. The airlock status light on your console turns from red to amber. Cycling. No, you try to override it. Lock down. Seal all bulkheads. The console ignores you. The system has been bypassed. The external airlock cycles. The inner door hisses. You spin the chair around, grabbing the only weapon you have, a heavy, heavy-duty flashlight. You aim it at the blast door. Your heart is hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You are not a soldier. You are a scientist. You are an explorer. You are not ready for a fight. The door slides open. There is no monster. There are no little gray men. Floating in the airlock, drifting casually into the bridge, is a sphere. It is the size of a basketball, made of a polished, shifting liquid metal that reflects your terrified face. It hums with the same tone as the jazz music. It stops 3 meters from you. It hovers. The surface ripples, forming a lens, an eye that isn't an eye. A voice fills the bridge. It doesn't come from the sphere. It vibrates directly in your skull, bypassing your ears. It speaks in your language, using your vocabulary, stripped from the ship's computer in nanoseconds. It feels intrusive, like fingers rummaging through your brain. Quarantine breach detected, the voice says. It sounds like a librarian who is disappointed in you. Biological contaminant, active. Designation, human. Origin, Sol 3. The sphere drifts closer. You press your back against the viewport, the cold of the glass seeping into your spine. You feel exposed, judged. You are early, the entity says. The species is not cycled for interstellar transit for another 400 cycles. You are unripe. I'm not a fruit. The absurdity of the situation making you bold. Anger flares up through the fear. Who is this thing to tell you when you are ready? I'm a pilot, Commander Thorne. Let me go. The sphere ripples. It seems amused. Go, it echoes. Nothing leaves the cradle until it can walk without breaking the furniture. You have been intercepted for your own safety, and the safety of the neighborhood. The sphere expands slightly. Prepare for integration. Your vessel will be archived. Your biological functions will be suspended indefinitely. You will be catalysed anomaly 001. It isn't an invasion, it's a playpen. You haven't found a monster. You've found the cosmic equivalent of a baby gate, and you just realized you are on the wrong side of it. The humiliation of it burns, to be treated not as a threat, but as a toddler wandering into traffic. You grip the flashlight. You look at the sphere, then at the console behind it. The manual override for the reactor core dump. It would blow the ship and this section of the net to atoms. Integration? Your voice trembling. I don't think so. The sphere pauses. Query, you intend self-destruction? If you don't let me pass, I'll break the furniture. The sphere goes still. The hum rises in pitch. Interesting. A threat. A primitive, futile threat. Perhaps you are closer to maturities than calculated. The airlock door behind the sphere hisses again. It opens wider. Prove it, the sphere says. Come outside. Chapter 4. The Great Filter. Your bridge. Lies the vacuum. You want me to walk out there? You ask. That's committing. No, the sphere corrects. Staying here is unbecoming. The archive is for dead things. If you wish to be living, you must demonstrate the capacity to survive the environment you seek to enter. You understand. It is a test, not a test of strength, but a test of will. A child stays in the crib because it is safe. An adult leaves the house knowing there are wolves in the woods, but knowing it doesn't stop your hands from sweating inside the emergency blanket. The fear is primal. It is the fear of falling, the fear of the dark, the fear of being eaten, all wrapped into one. You drop the flashlight. It clatters loudly on the deck. I need my suit. The sphere bobs, a gesture of assent. Proceed. You move to the locker. Your hands are surprisingly steady now. The fear is still there, but it has crystallized into something cold and sharp. The familiar hiss of the seals locking into place is the most comforting sound you have ever heard. It is your armor. It is the only thing separating you from the infinite nothing. You check the oxygen mix. You check the mag boots. You take a breath of the canned air. It smells like rubber and sterile dust. It smells like life. You turn back to the sphere. If I walk out there and I don't die, you let us pass, we shall see. Maturity is not a destination. It is a threshold. You walk past the sphere. You step into the airlock. You hit the cycle button. The outer doors open. The silence hits you first. It is absolute. But then you look up. You are standing on a strut of the great web. And for the first time, you see the scale of it. It doesn't just catch human debris. As you look left and right, spanning hundreds of kilometers, you see other ships. To your left, a vessel that looks like spun glass, shattered and dark. To your right, a monolith of dull gray stone that radiates a faint heat. Further down, something that looks biological, a whale made of metal, rotting in the void. It is a graveyard of ambitions, a museum of species that tried to leave their cradles and failed the test. They hit the net. They were archived. They stopped. You feel a wave of vertigo that has nothing to do with gravity. The sheer weight of failure surrounding you is suffocating. How many civilizations ended here? How many lonely pilots stared into the void and blinked? You activate your mag boots. Clank, clank. You walk out to the edge of the strut. Below you, if there is a below in space, the net stretches into infinity. But ahead, there is a gap, a single hexagon-shaped opening in the lattice, perfectly aligned with the trajectory of last hope. You stand on the precipice. You look back at your ship, small and fragile, against the backdrop of ancient failures. Then you look at the gap. You feel the pull of safety. You could go back. You could stay in the archive, frozen in time, a safe forever. But then you remember the itch that brought you here. We aren't ready, you whisper into your helmet comms. We are violent. We are scared. We break things. The sphere floats up beside you, unbothered by the vacuum. Yes, it speaks into your headset. You are all those things, but you are the first to step onto the net instead of struggling against it. You look at the sphere. What does that mean? The others, the liquid surface reflecting the graveyard, they fired their weapons. They tried to burn the net. They tried to hide. You asked a question. You stepped out to see. The sphere begins to glow, a soft, pulsating white light. Curiosity exceeds survival instinct. That is the key. That is the passport. The web begins to tremble. The clamp holding. Last hope releases with a silent shudder. The ship drifts free, floating toward the hexagonal gap. Return to your vessel. Anomaly 001, the sphere says. The barrier is lifted, but be warned. The crib is closed behind you. There is no safety beyond this point. Only the deep. We don't want safety. And you realize, for the first time, that it is true. The realization hits you like a physical blow. Safety is stagnation. Safety is the archive. You want the danger. You want the deep water. We want to know. Then go. You turn. You cycle the airlock. You strip off the helmet, gasping in the stale air of the bridge. You fall into the pilot's seat. Your hands are shaking again, but not from fear, from exhilaration, from the pure, unadulterated shock of being alive. The sphere is gone. The net is receding. Last hope drifts through the gap, and suddenly the stars are back. Not the filtered, blocked stars of the trap, but the raw, burning glare of the open universe. Proxima Centauri burns ahead, red and welcoming. You flip the switch on the comms panel. The gain is up. Mission control. Your voice steady. Your eyes fixed on the red star. This is Thorne. Correction to previous transmission. You pause. You look at the dark web fading behind you, the great filter that you just walked through. You feel older. You feel different. You are not just a human anymore. You are a traveler. We are not alone, and we are not children anymore. You engage the main thrusters. The hum of the fusion drive kicks in, vibrating in your teeth, in your bones. It feels like a heartbeat. Thorne out. Thorne crossed the threshold, proving that the only thing more dangerous than the dark is the fear of it. If this story sparked a light in your void, consider liking and subscribing to join the crew. We have many more worlds to chart. Until then, eyes forward, traveler.